How's it going, guys? My name is Stray Hydra Blade, and today we're going to learn how to make a good YouTube video. So let's get started. First off, I got a video from the content creator Jake Makes. I believe at the time of recording this, he's around 20,000 subscribers. I say half-heartedly. I have a video pulled up called Giant PVC Ballista Destroys All Build Challenge, in parentheses, Fort in the Woods collab. So we're going to be taking a look at that. I'm going to be going through a little bit of the ins and outs of YouTube from my own personal perspective, talking about whether or not what he did in this video was good, bad, the context behind it, and just a general overview of this video. There's a lot that you can go into with each one of the individual aspects of making a good YouTube channel or a good YouTube video. Today we're just going to be going over a very loose and general depiction of it, and we'll see how it goes.
You dare challenge me? Me? Behold, the scourge of Citadel, the calamity of all castles, the fifth.
Okay, so immediately we got the intro, which is, I believe, the first 15 seconds of the video are said to be the most important. Whether or not that is true, I have absolutely no idea. I think the 15 seconds of the video can catch pretty much anybody, because if you're gonna watch a video, the first thing you're gonna do is see the first 15 seconds, and it's gonna tell you whether or not you actually are gonna wanna watch this video. I think what's more important is the follow-up. You say you have the intro to the video, and then you have whatever comes after that, and then everything else after that until the end of the video. So it's kind of like that first intro spot, and then this spot. A lot of emphasis is focused on whether or not this one first 15-second clip, it's like catchy, it says everything it needs to say about the video, but really nobody cares. The people that are watching the first 15 seconds, they're gonna see it and their mind is gonna basically go numb for 15 seconds, and they're really just kind of gnawing it over and seeing what's gonna come next. That's at least how I would interpret it, just right off the bat. But in general, I would say don't worry too much about the intro. Let's continue before I go on to this topic for another 10 hours here.
Here of all fortresses. Let's see if I can pull it off. Behold, the fabulous stabulous.
I like how a car drives by as he's like presenting it, and me with my own viewing of it, that's all I noticed. I'm not even looking at the fabulous stabulous in this shot. I'm just seeing the car as it drives by and thinking about how he's just out here in the middle of nowhere filming this. Well, he's probably in his backyard, but take that fort in the woods. Okay, so that seemed to be his intro. It was 24 seconds long. Just some quick little bits. He seems like, I guess this would be kind of some meta context to the situation. He is wearing a helmet that he built in a previous video, and you wouldn't know that he built that unless you had seen the video or had heard about it. If this was your first time watching this video, you would just think maybe it's a helmet that he bought. The same with the cape. I don't know if he made that cape or not, but just looking at it, I can tell that he's clad in basically a suit that he enjoys very much. What I mean by this is, you can tell he's having a good time. He's kind of goofing around, and he's just having fun with it. I don't think any of that was really very heavily scripted. It was probably just off the cuff playfulness that he put in there. And I can tell that that's something that's genuine from him. So I think he gets some points for that seeming genuine. From my own perspective, of course, if somebody else saw this, they might not know, and they might just think, oh, this is one of those YouTubers who just tries to hype everything up like you might see on a toy review channel for little kids.
Fort in the Woods. These people challenged me to a build challenge. Wait, I thought you challenged them. Details. The challenge is to build some kind of projectile launcher where...
Again, I'm getting into the nitty-gritty of this, but the character in the background who talks to him, his name is Sunshine. And if you were a long-time viewer, you would understand who that was. But if you were a first-time viewer, you'd be like, who the heck just said that in the background? So that's something to note too. Just kind of showing the difference between, you can tell when he's trying to provoke his audience that he's had for a long time versus when he's trying to direct his attention towards a newer audience.
The main component is PVC pipe. These weapons will then be judged based on aesthetics, damage, and range. May the best maker win. Sunshine! Get your bright yellow butt down here! No, seriously, we gotta collab. Come on. There, watch this for a second. Here's what I'm thinking. Imagine giant ballista, okay? Obviously, PVC limbs. Because, duh, it's gotta be PVC. We're gonna need to swivel, right? Up and down, side to side, because, duh. We'll have a winch, the hand crank one. We'll have to design a trigger that hooks up.
At this point, I'm just thinking about how, for one, the whole little skit that he has with Sunshine, I suppose he does that for his own amusement. Then he has the description of the weapon, which is fascinating to me because I also like to build those sorts of things. So I get a little bit of understanding of how he's doing that, and I get kind of sucked into it. So I'm not really talking about this specifically because I am actually engaged in what is happening right now. So I'm not really thinking, which is what you want from your audience. You want to get them into a point where they're kind of sucked into it, which just means their mind is engaged. Otherwise, they will just click off the video and skip away.
To the winch, something simple, not too complicated. I mean, otherwise it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm thinking as big as we can make it.
Yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory.
You get the maximum effect. I'm thinking broadhead bolts, giant bolts, maybe fire bolts. You know what I mean?
So Sunshine's reaction to this right now is how 90% of his viewers are probably feeling. They're looking at his video as he's describing how this is gonna work and what goes into it, and they're just like, yeah, okay, get on with it. What am I gonna have for lunch today? As he's talking, and it's just blah, 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 words. That's a no-no. That's one of the 7 deadly sins of YouTube. Now, he's kind of meshed that into him talking about the project, which is literally useless and will go over basically everybody's heads at this point. And then he's also having Sunshine kind of do a little skit. So our focus here is not really on the project itself. We kind of just saw that he's making a project. It's basically the gist of it that I got. And I actually build these sorts of things. So all I got from that is, we're going to build a thing. And I'm assuming that's what everybody else probably got as well. Then we got his little skit going on with Sunshine in here, which is slightly amusing. But unless you are someone like Jake's family member, and even Jake's family members, I don't think they would find this skit that he's doing very entertaining. It's an interesting skit for the skit's sake, but if you are somebody who is trying to look up this video for instructions on how to build something like this, or you just wanted to see the thing get built, I feel like the skit kind of just gets in the way of that. I don't know. Now, that's one way you can look at it. The other way you can look at it is what's going on here is actually he's just having fun doing this. Like, this is just a fun skit for him to film creatively. But I'm looking at it thinking about how much work went into him having to make that little 3D model scene and all the parts like flying together and stuff, and then having to like put that in there and then try to explain it. He had to plan out like, okay, this is what I'm gonna say, this is how I'm going to film these parts, this is what I'm gonna talk about, and I'll make a little clip here and this will kind of give it an overview of what's going on. So he had to first say to himself, I'm imagining this, he had to say to himself, I want to try to tell the audience what I'm building so that they're clued in a little bit. Then he forced himself, and now this is just me feeling it out again, but I'm imagining that he said that I'm going to try to fill this blank for the audience and tell them what I'm building, and that needs to be in there, otherwise they won't understand what's going on and they'll lose interest. That's Jake speaking. So he forced himself to put that in, even though he probably didn't want to, and then he decided, oh, this is a good opportunity to do this little skit here, say this little thing. That's how I imagine it came about. But that's only based off of the context that I know him. I've seen the majority of his videos, and I have a little bit of insights into how his mind works. So a normal person watching this, just some average viewer, would probably look at this and think, well, there's a few things that this person would be going for. They're either thinking, I want to see a slingshot thing blow something up, I want to know how to build one of these, and I'm bored and this person just entertains me for some reason. Of course, there's a whole bunch of other different reasons why someone would be watching a video like this, but those are kind of the general ideas that people have. So when I see this video, I see it as this little part here where he's showing how the thing works, which is in the tutorial community, let's say, it's something that people have to think on a bit. How much in depth do I want to go, or do I just show them the thing working? That's something that I also have trouble figuring out, that balance myself. Because imagine if you went up to somebody, you built something, and you went up to somebody who really, maybe it's a friend of yours, but they're not into this kind of craft, even if maybe they are a little bit, but you come up and you show them this thing that you made, they literally don't care. And they're probably just counting the seconds before you go away. So as you're sitting there saying, look, and I did this, and I put it this way, and this is how it's all gonna come together, and this is where I'm thinking it's gonna go, when you're saying that, all that's going through that person's head is, yeah, but this has no relevance to my own life, so why am I listening to this? I don't care about your little thing, that's cool. They want like 5 seconds of it, and then that's good enough for them. They don't need any more.
Freaking awesome. Any questions? Why are we watching this so many times? Because it took me 3 days to make it.
So, Jake does a pretty good job here of highlighting what it would be like to try to show somebody your project who genuinely doesn't care. You can try to explain to them the importance of it as much as you can, but that emotional, there's no emotional click there. It's just him speaking logic to the person, trying to tell them the reasons why they should be invested in this, instead of just actually making them invested. This is a common trap that everybody, including myself, fall into. And I just want to highlight that that's there. And let's move on.
Those look nice. Except for that part. The strings look wonky. Why'd you do it like that? Can you stay focused? I can film your merch plug. That's all you're gonna...
The part where he's like, where Sunshine says, "Why'd you do it like that?" That's also a good example of how people will act to you. You can come up to them and say, "This is how I did it," and the whole time they're gonna be going, "Yeah, but I don't care." And then they'll come up with their own idea and say, "Wait, you should do it this way." Even though they already expressed that they don't care. That's another common little tidbit of truth that's in his video.
What? I have a life. What do you even do all day? That's none of your business.
I love when Jake's videos devolve into him just debating himself. He'll have a whole skit where it's just 3 minutes of him talking to himself like he's an old married couple. And that's entertaining for me.
Fine.
But for somebody who is actually interested in learning how to build one of these, they probably wouldn't find that very interesting. If someone actually wanted to build one of these, you'd have to format this in an entirely different way, going from step by step of how you did it with no little things in between. You want to get short, straight, and to the point. So judging off of that, you could say this video definitely falls in the category of entertainment and not really a tutorial. A tutorial being very much hard-nosed, to the point, how to do the thing as quick and as effective as possible, very practically. This is kind of just loosey-goosey. We're just jumping from one thing to another, talking about things. So I would consider that entertainment. We're now 2.5 minutes in, and if you were looking on how to build this thing, I think you probably would have clicked away by now. And I'm trying to think what kind of person would still be sticking around at this point. Two minutes and 30 seconds in. Who would still be here? Maybe Jake's family. Maybe Jake's friends. And his subscribers do seem to enjoy the type of content that he posts and watch him pretty much purely for entertainment value, no real tutorial value. So entertainment wise, would I say this is good? Let's take a closer look at the rest of the video before we jump to any conclusions.
Pop quiz. Why on earth would COVID jack the price of wood up? I don't know. I think it's kind of stupid, but apparently, you know, the only affordable 2x4s are pink for some reason. We will have the greatest pink ballista ever.
Now he's doing a montage that doesn't show you how to build any of this at all, but shows you a bunch of shots of putting it together. And what I think is interesting about shots like this is they don't teach you how to do it. They kind of build an idea in your mind of how these things went together, but for entertainment's sake, I don't really know if it would be entirely necessary to put something like this in your video. It could add a little bit more atmosphere or like pizzazz to your video to kind of get you into the mood of what's going on. It's like, yeah, we're doing stuff, construction, stuff's happening, that kind of vibe. Whether or not you would want to put something like that in your video, is that good or bad? That's what I'm kind of trying to highlight here. I would say for the type of video he's going, being entertainment, this being a build project, the little scene here does build up the atmosphere for what's about to go down, I imagine.
So the post thing that goes into the stand that the actual ballista sits on, in the 3D model looks like a 6x6 post. I'm not going to do that because the wood is way too expensive and 6x6 is a bit overkill. Instead, I'm going to take some 2x4s. We're going to cut some other little bits of 2x4 and stick them right here. And then at the top, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do like 3 of them stacked on top of each other so that then our swivel can drill through that and have something to attach to. Real quick, before we firmly attach all of these in place on here, it's going to be much easier to drill the hole out for this pipe swivel part.
Again, all of what he's saying here is just kind of going over my head. If I was building this myself, I might slow down and try to comprehend what he's talking about a little bit better. But he's also talking fairly fast, as if to indicate what he's saying isn't really that important and that it's just blah blah blah, here's what we're gonna do, blah 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 blah, okay, let's get into it. That kind of convey that.
On the drill press, when they're still small pieces, so I can actually fit them on the press. I wanted some way to hold this thing in place where it wouldn't like spin out if I was trying to hold it.
And now he's describing a problem that he's having with this process. And in filming this, there was probably hundreds, if not thousands, of problems that he ran into along the way. I'm assuming this was a 3 to 4 month long process that he has going on here. So every little step that you do has its own problems that have to be overcome. And in the grand scheme of things, he's hand-picked 3 or 4 of those and is putting them into his video to show how he got around that. Which, again, if you're trying to show how you actually did the thing as a tutorial, this video is not a tutorial. So he's actually picking these out and putting them in his video, more like just for atmosphere.
And then I'd end up cutting my finger off. Now it kind of
That's at least what I would say. Let's continue and see if I'm right about that or not.
sucks. So I just came up with this little thingy. Now this to this, this to this, then clamps this to this, and this to this. So it just holds it in place for me while I drill it.
We've got some more shots of just random stuff going on, him putting it together. And I start to wonder at this point, how much razzle dazzle is too much razzle dazzle? Because we're 5 minutes in, and what we've got so far is him goofing off, some slight instructions. Actually no, scratch that. Some atmosphere, some more atmosphere, and then some more atmosphere. But there's no meat to the... It's all just dressing. I guess, see, from my own personal perspective, and we could talk about other perspectives of people watching this, but from my own personal perspective watching this, I don't really have any enjoyment watching this, except for the fact that I've been watching his content for a while and I enjoy seeing what he comes up with. But if you were somebody else other than me, I'm not quite sure what you would find entertaining about this content. Of course the comments might say one thing, but I'm sure the people that commented don't even know why they watch his content or have ever really deeply considered it. It's like if you ask somebody in a relationship, you ask them, him or her, why do you like me? And they'll give you some answer like, oh, well, you're smart or you're pretty. And it's like, they haven't even the slightest clue of what makes them actually like your content. So this video here, I personally only really get the enjoyment out of just seeing that Jake had come up with something and he's just having fun building it so far. So let's continue. I'll probably have more to say about that as we go on.
It's gonna be so cool. Okay, now we are on to this part. We're gonna start with the bottom plate, which is gonna be this 2x6. Lay this next to the beam to figure out how wide it needs to be. Make our marky.
Again, we're just continuing with the atmosphere. It's not a full tutorial, but he's just kind of sprinkling some little bits here and there of some of the things that he did, just to kind of show that he did something.
Oh yeah.
In fact, he could probably take all of those parts that he filmed, snip them all down, take like 90% of those little parts of him building it, and just do a little montage of each individual, like we got the wood, the cutting, the drilling, and then this, and then it's done. And you get like a little 5, 10 second, 20 second montage of it, and then it's done. If this was a movie doing a montage, they probably would have had it done in a 1 minute, I'd imagine is what a movie usually does a montage as. I'm not sure, but this feels like 2 or 3 times the length of whatever that montage length would be in a film. So what I'm saying here is it seems kind of like he's dragging it out, which starts to feel a little bit boring.
It's all coming together.
So here's something interesting. You remember, this is going to be basically...
Another example of this is when he says, oh yeah, it's all coming together. For one, that's just a meme. 2, you can't really get invested in that, because I know from experience of building that when you're building something and you can see like, oh yeah, things are starting to click, it's all coming together. Some meme like that would be funny in your own head, but then everybody who's watching has absolutely no idea all of the hundreds of problems. So for them, there's no context behind this joke other than it's just some random meme that they've probably seen 100 times before, and it just doesn't really hit home as much as it probably did in Jake's mind as he was filming it.
We have to figure out how...
Which is just showing a disconnect between the audience and the viewer. I don't think he's really aware of what the audience would like and why they would like it, which, in my opinion, on YouTube is one of the things that you probably want to focus the most on, is learning what would engage your audience and what wouldn't.
Far down, we can pull this to get the rotation point and still get...
And honestly, he's been talking for so long, doing an explanation of his video on the bits and how things are supposed to work, that I've honestly gotten really bored of watching it. I think if I didn't know who this guy was, I would have skipped away by now. And we're at the 5-minute, 11-second mark. So if you went to his analytics, I bet you that around this part is when you'd see the analytics just go. So
the amount of angle that we want. 9 inches from bottom to top. As usual, drilling a straight hole through something so large as this is going to be a little difficult.
we're still going. We're still going. Now, I don't want to bash on Jake too much here. It's fun to talk about how terrible his video is. But really, he's still learning. And I'm sure if he caught on to this, this would be something that he would change and focus on something else. if he ever decides it's a problem. I could be wrong. Maybe this video was actually really good and really entertaining. Of course, this is just my own perspective on this, so I look at this and I kind of think I feel like, at least in this video, just based off of this video, I have to go and watch some of the others to really get a good answer for this, but I feel like he doesn't know what people want to watch or why. See, he's really good at building things and putting things together, but he doesn't really have the slightest clue of why someone would want to watch something other than make it cool is his kind of like guideline, which is very vague and not really useful in any practical applications. Anyways, let's continue.
This is a long drill bit. You know what? That wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad either. This is the big giant.
I feel like he just summed up this video so far, in my eyes.
If all of this goes according to plan, these PVC prods are going to be way too difficult for myself, even though I am an immensely strong individual, to pull back with my bare hands. We need something with some mechanical advantage. We need a winch. This is a simple hand crank winch, probably from Harbor Freight. It's rated to 1,500 pounds, which should be more than enough. If this thing gets anywhere close to 1,500 pounds, I'm gonna be overjoyed.
This is just a side note on material equipment, but not so much a video. But anytime it says a rating of X amount of pounds, basically just divide that by 3 and that's how much you could actually use with your project. That'd be a good assumption for stuff like this. And I don't want to jinx this, but I kind of feel like there's a small chance he'll put this on and he'll try to winch it back, and the bow only has like 200 or 300 pounds of draw strength, but then the winch itself is like getting bound up and it doesn't have enough force for him to hand crank it still. That's one of the kind of problems in a project that I would see foreshadowed in my own work. But that's talking about building and not YouTube, so little interjection there.
The air arrest for this ballista we're going to make out of some more of this 1-inch diameter PVC pipe, which I have over here. This 1-inch PVC pipe, we're going to drill some holes in the PVC pipe, and then we're going to mount it. Here, I nailed it up on this. That's going to be our bolt rest. So we take some bolt material, and it will just run on these rails, just like that.
So if you actually
Apologies are for people who are wrong.
So if you accidentally shot me in the foot,
If I ever shoot you in the foot, it's going to be on purpose. Of course, we're drilling holes through the top of the PVC so that we don't have the screw head sticking up, and then our bowstring, when it slams into that, will probably break. Bows are shaped so that they are thickest in the middle and thinnest at the ends. The reason for that is if they're the same width the entire way, the ends are a lot heavier. That means there's...
Okay, so again, he's been going on and on about this stuff. And I'm kind of imagining if I was just sitting down eating some lunch watching this, if I would find this interesting. And I suppose I would. Even though this is all just him vaguely showing you how it was built, it's still vaguely interesting. I'm not really sure what to say about it, because on one hand it is a interesting video to watch for me personally, but I'm not quite sure why. I'm kind of thinking it over in my head as I'm going through this. Let's continue.
more mass to move forward. When you have to move more mass forward, it slows it down. You know, you can have a 100-pound bow, but if it doesn't snap fast enough, you're still not going to be able to throw that arrow very far. What we're trying to figure out is the right ratio of where to put the fiberglass rod so that the ends are lighter than the center. We're going to take this larger 1 1/4 inch diameter PVC, we're going to cut it in half.
So what he said about the weight versus the speed of the bow, the draw weight versus the speed of the projectile, it does need to be fast. It needs to have high acceleration. This is something that I know because I've studied bows and how they work and tried to create my own before. I don't know if somebody, so when I hear him talking about that, I obviously get some, I already know it, so I don't really find it extremely valuable, but I know what he's talking about, and so my brain's just a little bit there got engaged, and I have a feeling we're going to fall right back out of that again.
And then we're going to use this section and slide that over the very center to make the center much heavier and harder to bend than the edges.
Okay, I see a problem with the work process here. Now notice that when he was in the shop with his person here, who is not Sunshine, for one, he does not have the drinks required to make this a proper build. You can see his friend is helping him, but I don't see any cans of soda in the background. Come on, Jake, what the heck?
Make the center much heavier and harder to bend than the edges. It is cold, wet, and dreary outside. You know what's not cold, wet, and dreary? Jake makes merchandise! We have t-shirts, we have mugs, we have masks, which is kind of weird. We've got hoodies, phone cases, we've got it all. This merchandise is guaranteed scientifically to make you better looking, stronger, smarter. We've got the make or die shirt. We've got the creativity shirt. Engage your safety squints. The medievalorian shirt. I drink coffee and set things on fire. We also have the stupid shirt. Please purchase the merch, support the channel, and help us continue to build the coolest stuff. Also, you need to ring the bell, make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on, and please check out Jake's Instagram, because that's where all the fun happens.
Looks like he had a lot of fun creating those merchandise. Just an ad. I mean, the ad's almost halfway through the video, so I don't think it would break your focus too much. Depends on if he has AdSense ads on top of his own ad in there. Which, a remark on ads, if you put ads on your own video and someone clicks on it, that takes them away from your video. So if you want to keep somebody engaged in your video, it would be better to not have ads or have minimal ads. People think that if you want to have more money, you need to put more ads in your video, so ads equals money. But it's kind of counterintuitive, because that can actually decrease the amount of views that you get and decrease the enjoyment that people have of your videos and decrease the immersion. So in the long run, it might actually be more profitable for you to put less ads so that you can get more views.
I did a poll on Instagram trying to let y'all vote on whether this thing should be pink or black, and it was close, but the pinks won out. So I'm gonna paint it pink and black. Pink with black highlights, or black with pink highlight. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm going to use clear wood finisher, I think it's like spar urethane, to cover the pink 2x4s to keep their pink color and just seal
So
them.
I was kind of waiting for this video to get to the point where it would be no longer just him vaguely explaining the process, to where it would get to something that's more like, oh, whoa, that's actually really interesting. But it just kind of is like mediocre throughout the whole video.
So that they're weatherproof. And then I'm going to paint the parts that aren't pink right now black with some flat black paint I have laying around. Fort in the Woods, it's gonna be a little embarrassing to get beaten by the world.
Oh, 9 minutes and 48 seconds in. Okay, I have to contain myself here. Because I want to say so many things that are so biased. But I'm trying to give you just the pure knowledge about the how YouTube works here. So we're almost 10 minutes in, and at this point he's started to talk about that this was a collaboration, which at this point I had completely forgotten about until he brought it back up. And then I'm kind of interested, only because I'm interested to see what they're gonna come up with and how they will, what kind of thing that they're gonna build to rival Jake. So this kind of rivalry here, and that's interesting to me. A little bit of competition is always interesting to see, especially in something that you're active in. I'm active in the build community, so when I see things like this, I get engaged into it. But if you were looking at it from the audience's perspective, I think the audience, if they know who that person is, who they're doing the competition with, then you can this is kind of topical, but Kong versus Godzilla, in that movie everybody knows who Godzilla is and who Kong is. So people that do know that and follow that, they're interested in seeing what the outcome would be. That'd be a pretty simple way of putting it. Or like any wrestling match nowadays, or MMA match, sorry. Things like that. So I'd say that that's one sort of interesting aspect about this. I'd say it depends on what you came here for. What did you come here for? Did you come here to learn how to build a ballista? Did you because if you did, you didn't really get a great I mean, you'll get some vague ideas of how it works, and that might spark your creativity, so that's good. But you didn't really get a step-by-step of how to do it yourself. So the odds of you going out and actually building one yourself are pretty slim, because unless you're an expert. And then we have another reason that you would watch this, for entertainment value. That's very broad because people get entertained by a lot of different things. One reason that I watch these kind of videos is just to see what he's up to. I'm not really engaged in any of this, besides the fact that it matters to me in some small way, which again is very vague, but we'll put that there too. And 3 is if you wanted to see the competition between Jake's build and the build of the people that he's collaborating with. So those are 3 reasons you might watch this video. A 4th would be maybe you're scrolling through YouTube and you're watching ballistas and things of that nature, or homemade ballistas or something like that, and then you see Jake's video and you realize, oh, that looks interesting, and you go and click on that. So those are some of the reasons why you would watch this, and he kind of hits all of them to some degree, but the problem with trying to appease the masses is everybody's okay with your content, but nobody loves it. If you make it more refined for a specific audience, theoretically, the odds are higher that they would enjoy it a lot more. And some people would probably, if you're trying to please everybody, you're not going to get anybody to love or hate you. Everybody's just going to be kind of in a gray area. But if you can get somebody to get something that people really love, there'll be people who really love it and people who absolutely hate it. So there's opposite ends of the spectrum. Anyways, let's continue.
Cutest siege engine, and now we move on to the trigger. I'm opting for simplicity here. Basically, we're just gonna have a hook and a big long lever. Obviously, I could work out some...
So we're at the 10-minute mark exactly here. I think that's the problem with this video, and a problem with a lot of Jake's videos, but let's just talk about this video in particular here, because talking about his entire channel would be a whole nother issue. But in this video, he tries to kind of appease everybody. It's mildly entertaining, it's got some humor, it's got some learning, it's got some descriptions on the operations of it and the problem solving aspects of this project. But it's not honing in on any one of those really. It's kind of just scattered throughout everything. So that could be good or that could be bad. Of course, the point of this is trying to figure out whether or not this video is good or bad on YouTube. I'd put it in some sort of in-between where it's kind of just mediocre.
Sort of multiple piece system where I wouldn't have to have a long lever, but this way it'll be easier and it will work just fine for what we're doing. I'll be honest with you, right now I'm getting quite impatient. I just broke 3 drill bits trying to drill through this stupid piece of metal. I don't know about you, but when I'm very impatient, I find sometimes it helps to hit it really hard with a hammer. This is the finished trigger thingy. I've got these 2 plates welded to that, which then of course bolts through the hook. The actual bowstring is going to be made of 2 parts. Number 1 is this 1,100 pound paracord that I found at Walmart. I think everything in this ballista is actually rated to 1,000 pounds thereabouts, even though we're probably not going to come anywhere near that. The second part is going to be made of this steel cable. See what I'm afraid of?
Oh my gosh, I'm bored. Sorry, Jake.
Cross the string like this. It's going to have to bend up and around the PVC rails, and then it's probably going to catch itself on the corner. I'm thinking if we get a long middle section,
I wonder what I should eat for dinner tonight.
The crossing string is out to the side where it's not going to cause any problems.
Now that looks cool. That looks pretty sick. That shot right there in the middle of the night with the flashlight aiming at it. I like that.
Now that we've got some tension on it.
Is it good or bad? Well, that's my own personal preference. I think that looks incredibly wicked. Throw away the rest of the video and just leave that there. Drop a picture of this on Instagram and there you go. That's all you need from it. Unfortunately, I have a feeling the rest of this video is gonna be the same and just kind of drag on, but we'll sit through it.
Go ahead and loop it. Come on, we're close. Look at that. And we're on. We can release. And there we go. It is strung. You know what? We should call these Fort in the Woods people and find out how they're doing. Call Fort with video. Hello. I just figured I'd call and see how you 2 losers were coming along with your clearly inferior project.
Well, it's coming along great. We're actually working on it right now. You want to see it?
I would love. Why else would I be calling?
Yeah, we're working on it right now. It's going amazing. I don't think you have a chance in the world. Dang it. Look at this now. This will blow your mind. This is coming together so well. Check out this thing. Play this.
They haven't a chance. Now about.
Okay, that was pretty comedic, pretty humorous. For once, I was actually engaged in what was going on in that moment. But my mind was just racing, thinking about, oh, did they plan a skit? Was that supposed to be a skit? Or was that like real? I'm imagining it was a skit. Either way, interesting to see him talking to the other people, I suppose. For once, he wasn't explaining what was happening, he was just doing a thing. Kind of like, imagine him making this call. Let's say if it was the first time that he made this call. He wouldn't know what's going to happen. And it's kind of like when you test a project. You're going to test a weapon. You're going to go out and test this weapon. Everybody wants to see, like, oh, how's it going to work? Is it going to work? Is it going to fail? I'd imagine that's kind of the same mentality behind that phone call is, oh, how is this phone call going to go? Interesting. So I would say that's probably a good thing to have in your video. Of course, it doesn't make the whole video. One grain of goodness does not make the video.
But the books. I made 3 different kinds. The first 2 are based around a broomstick shaft. The third one is metal electrical conduit. First head design is the classic. The fletching is...
Now, what I said about having it being the testing of the weapon being one of the cooler things about it, ZNA actually used to post his videos with, and if you don't know who ZNA is just a YouTuber who builds weapons and things similar to Jake Makes. He would post a video that's him building it, and he'd post a test video. So tutorial and then test video. That way everybody's happy. Well, some people that actually want to watch the tutorial and some people actually want to watch this video. So they'd cut the rest of it out, so they'd make it more refined. Instead of just lumping it all into one video, like Jake's done here.
Of course, duct tape. The second design, of course, is just a massive broadhead, because duh. And the third I feel pretty smart about. This is based off an ancient Roman throwing spear called a pilum spear. The brilliant thing about this old Roman spear was that it had a thin, long metal shaft on top of the wooden shaft, and on the end of the thin, long metal shaft, it had a head that was slightly larger in diameter than the rest. This allows for maximum penetration, because the only part that actually has to punch its way through the material is the very tip. Once that head has punched through, the rest of the shaft just slides right through your target, the shield of the person your enemy is with, the body of the person your enemy is with, the head of the... We'll skip that part. Just to demonstrate what I'm talking about, I'll test this one versus the classic. Stopped just below the head. Now, the pilum style.
See, this could be a separate video in and of itself. He's basically giving us a history lesson on Roman weaponry, and then he's testing them out to see if they work. But he's put that in his video as well. I'd say his video is kind of a hodgepodge of a bunch of different things, and I'm not sure if that's good or bad.
Feet penetration. You can imagine if this is an enemy's shield, he's been skewered. I think this ought to score me some points against those woods-dwelling fortsmen.
I feel like you could start your video here. Cut out, we're at the 14-minute mark now, 14 and 40 seconds. Cut out those first 14 minutes. This next 6 minutes is all you really need to see. At least, well, from what perspective? Why would you want to be seeing this part? Well, this is the testing of the weapon, and it's a cinematic montage to look cool. So it hits 2 points, showing the weapon being tested and presenting it in a grand and entertaining way, which is all you really would want to see. Like I said, he could have made individual video on each section of this and posted them each separately. So the problem with that is on YouTube, when people watch a video, they want it to be more or less a specific way, and that's why they subscribe to you. At least that's kind of the notion. The notion is that you want to post a particular type of content and keep repeating that. In Jake's videos here, he often will post, I guess let's just talk about this one particular video. If he was to post this kind of video over and over and over again, I'm not really sure. Because you could say, well, let's just post this kind of style. We'll follow the same basic format and just do this multiple times. Let's say we did it shot for shot, but just with some other different project. Would that work? Would that be entertaining? I'm not entirely sure. There's so many factors that depends on. While I'm thinking of that, let's just get on with this video because it's been a while now.
How's it going, everyone? I'm on.
I want to say that comment I made about posting content that's pretty much identical over and over is more a fact of how the YouTube algorithm works more than how the human entertainment works. See, humans get entertained by a whole bunch of different stuff, but YouTube tries to say, well, so apparently it'll just be the exact same thing if we just give them the exact same thing over and over again, but it doesn't work like that. Because if you really took one specific video, and let's say you didn't make any changes to it at all, and you posted that content over and over and over again, it's just the exact same video, copy pasted, people are gonna get bored of it. It's not gonna be entertaining. See, entertainment isn't derived based off of one specific formula or one specific way and then repeating that. Entertainment is usually based off of, and art in general, is based off of the notion that everything is constantly changing. So, and it's dependent on the context. So this video looks a certain way based on the prior video that you posted, and then vice versa with the next video that you're gonna post. So what I'm trying to say is YouTube would have you believe, and this is what I think the general consensus is that you gotta post a specific type of content and post that over and over and over again. And what people don't realize is it's not so much about posting that content over and over and over again, it's more about the individual artistry within each one of these episodes that you post. It's not just the same thing. It can follow a loose storyline, but it has to be different in some way. So to say, I guess I'll just leave you with that and let you think on that a little bit.
Nick from Fort in the Woods. Back there is Jacob. We're going to be competing with Jake in 3 different categories for this build competition. Category 1 is looks/design. Who has the coolest build? Whose looks the best? Who has the best overall concept? Category 2 is distance. Very self-explanatory. Who can launch their projectile the farthest? And finally, category 3 is going to be thickness plywood. And we are both going to be placing our target at...
Okay, test number 1 for distance. We're out in an open field. We've got it pointed up as high as it can go. Okay, trigger's locked. Helmet down. Ready? What do you guess is? How far do you think it went? 272 feet. Okay, I've attached a scale here that goes up to 1,000 pounds, so I will go ahead and winch it back, try not to die, and then call out how much the draw weight of this thing is. 156 pounds. Well, that's not very much. It's not, but you got to keep in mind the acceleration distance on this thing is very long compared to a normal bow or crossbow. Now, for the second test, the penetration damage test. We're going to be shooting at the castle, which is going to be exactly 50 feet away from the ballista. Ready? in the woods.
So this part is actually pretty interesting. Of course, he's testing it. And I'm pretty engaged as I'm watching it. The testing of it is pretty interesting. I remember a lot of the Slingshot channel's earlier stuff was just him testing his crazy things, and then you get like a 1 or 2 minute clip of just test shots of that, and then it would go viral. So it makes me wonder why Jake hasn't tried to do something like that. So if we're this little segment here where he's testing it, if we were to say whether this is good or bad for YouTube, I would say it was bad that he put this at the end of his video when he could have just filmed an entire 10-minute, maybe 5-minute dedicated video just of test footage of it, doing crazy things with it. That would have been really interesting, and that's probably what most of the people actually really want to see here.
You're welcome.
That's
unfortunate.
That is
That's what
unfortunate.
happens with duct tape, makes whole plywood.
Yeah.
Of course, him putting everything into one video does build up a nice little story that you can watch, and it kind of builds some anticipation to the climax of the video. So you can do it that way, but which one is better is the question. Would you want to, it's really depending on what your objective is, because if your objective is to get as many views as humanly possible, views are one thing. If your objective is to get as much watch time as you can, that's another thing. If your objective is to make as much money as you can, that's an entirely different thing also. So we're saying what is good and bad to post on YouTube. It's very vague, but I would say he probably would have gotten a lot more views if he just posted the test footage of it and did something entertaining with that, instead of going through 17 minutes of basically just filler, you could say. On the other hand, it's kind of interesting to watch it like all come together and then finally go off. That has its own merit, but as I'm saying that, I don't really feel that. It sounds like something that would be logically true, like yes, he built up to it, which makes the moment of truth that much more engaging, but I don't think in this context it works quite that way. I think that instead, if he just posted the video of the thing shooting, it would have gotten a lot more views. But instead, he probably killed out 90% of his audience by putting in a whole bunch of just boring stuff. Of course, he's kind of going for a longer video, so more watch time, in the hopes that the more watch time will give him higher up in the YouTube analytics. But they have to actually be watching the video for that to happen, and I'm guessing that most people click off of this video relatively quickly, so that'd be the problem with that.
Shake them up. Look at the clean cut. This is the broadhead. It just cut right through it. And it went 2 feet through. Holy Christ.
We interrupt this episode of Jake Makes to bring you our sponsor.
That's terrible. Rounded by bungalows. Oh, that is too cool. The same exact thing I just did, except I'm going to stick a lit propane torch right behind it.
Like that, the flames, that's a pretty awesome shot, especially with the music. That's pretty entertaining.
Okay, I just watched the slow-mo. That is the coolest thing I have ever filmed. That was nuts! I was not expecting it to be that awesome. Now I'm like halfway through. Very nice. I just saw something. There's a fort back there. In the woods. That's me, the ultra
Ha!
Was the perfect hole. So fletching, popped right off and dropped down. Guys, be sure to go check out Fort in the Woods video. Subscribe to their channel. They're really awesome dudes. I like their videos. Their channel's gonna go places, good places. Their whole channel fits right in line with my goal for this channel, which of course is to inspire young people to go get off their butts and be creative. Here is a sneak peek of their video. This is an air cannon. It runs off of 3 leaf blowers and fires pool balls. This is the craziest thing we have built so far. Dang it, that looks cool. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching today. I really appreciate it. Go now. Get off YouTube. Get off your behind it. Go out into the world and build something awesome. I'll see you next time. Jake out.
So for the sake of good sportsmanship, everybody just clap. Good job, good video. 20 minutes. Whew, I have no idea how long this video must be. By now it's probably around anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour. So if you've stuck around that long, what are you doing with your life? No, but seriously. My overall assessment of the video, I haven't looked at any of the views or any of the comments. I'm going based purely off of the video itself. I would say, would I think this is going to do good in YouTube, or if this is going to do bad on YouTube? I think it probably will not become viral, and it probably will not break 100,000 views, but in the long term, this video is gonna accumulate some views, which are just gonna be good for Jake's channel in the long run, as well as he's made connections with some other YouTubers, which is also gonna boost your creativity and wanting to collaborate and be active and competitive in the YouTube scene. So having that motivation is really the fuel that is taken away from this. In the grand scheme of trying to make money or views off of YouTube, the number one thing people forget is that you have to be motivated enough to actually go out and film the darn thing. So I'd say this video did an amazing job of boosting creativity for Jake, for the people that collaborated with him, and also probably for the viewers that were watching, myself included. And if we were to label if this was a good or bad video, the analytics of YouTube will tell you it is not a good video. And that's a lie, because in the long run, this is actually a good video based off of the fact that it boosts the motivation of Jake, and the success of his channel is going to be based off of that. One pitfall he might fall into, as a word of warning, is he might get discouraged because his videos are not getting a lot of views. And so then he would stop posting, which would be the opposite of the way that you would try to make a good video and get good views. You have to keep posting. So if he loses encouragement and motivation to do these videos, then his channel would die out, basically. Anyways, this video has probably gone on long enough for you, if you've been watching this that long. And I guess I'll leave you with this, in that doing YouTube is very, very broad. There's so many things that you can do on it. So to say what is a good video and what is a bad video is very difficult to narrow down. And I've tried to do my best here to kind of help get you to think and ask questions. I'm not telling you the answers here. I'm trying to get you to ask whether or not what I'm saying is true. Do you feel like that's true? Have you gone out and studied it yourself? Can you verify that it's false or true? And get you to contemplate a little bit. If you are trying to pursue YouTube yourself, a video like this might help you to see some things that you never had asked before. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. If you would like to see more content like this, please let me know in the comments down below. This is a very different style of video, but I had a lot of fun filming it, so I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.